The iGrafx platform, we can define risk at varying levels. Whether we're starting here with our individual risk catalog by defining folders or risk instances. In this case, why don't we create a folder to help us categorize these particular risks. Maybe these are operational risks. We'll go ahead and identify a summary to represent the types of risks that are here, and we'll create our object, much like we've done with the process objects before. Now that we have our folder in place, we'll go ahead and create a risk to go within this folder. Again, going back to the plus sign, selecting risk, and this time maybe we'll have a system outage as one of our operational risks. Again, we'll identify a summary. We can identify what type of risk does it happen to be. Is it compliance, financial, operational, strategic? Well, these are operational, so we'll go ahead and select that. And again, create our object. With our risk now created, of course, we can see our summary information has been carried over. There is a rating that is also defined here. There's no rating as of yet because we haven't entered any of our data points. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. But for now, let's go over to our settings area, where again, we can decide what type of risk it happens to be. We can set the data type for this particular risk. Again, it's operational in nature. We can also set its weighting so that when compared with other risks within the environment, how should this risk be compared with regards to others? Now that we've created our risk data here, why don't we pop over, we'll think about the individual data elements. And maybe as of this particular date here, we're looking at an impact of medium when we do have a system outage, and when it does, or its likelihood to occur, happens to be low. Now, based on those values, it has calculated here 6, and this is a medium impact within the environment, so it's coding it as yellow. We might also define the appetite that we have for this particular risk. We can identify some financial information. We can set the reason that this risk might occur, and we'll go ahead and add this particular data element. So that information is now pulled here, and if I pop back over to my risk tab, because we now have data, it's rolling that data up for me, or that information up, so that I see here what the current rating for this risk happens to be. Popping over to our relationship information, as I happen to scroll, I can see that this risk has not been identified or is not used, however, currently within any process within our environment, because we just created it, so it has no relationship. But if I were to create a risk instance for this, maybe something that might occur as a part of a system outage might be the fact that we have a server that goes offline. Again, we'll go ahead and enter some summary information for this data as well, to say, what it means when the server happens to go offline. And then once we scroll down a little bit more, we can identify the fact that, of course, this is an instance. We can see that it is also already a part of a particular risk, and we can, of course, identify what it happens to be a risk for. So this instance of a risk, when it is occurring, if we click choose here, it's going to pop open this my dialog box to show me the rest of my platform, so I can decide other incidents or processes where this risk instance might decide that it wants to rear its ugly head. All right, so now we've identified this. It has a relationship to this particular task or this activity that's been identified within our platform. Again, go ahead and select that. Again, now we look at our relationship. We can see it already now, of course, has a relationship because we just identified that for the particular instance. This incident, this task for within our process, and then, of course, it also has a relationship back to the individual risk itself. So being able to navigate back and forth. Now, if I select within my process, if I start thinking about processes, really instances of risk can occur anywhere within my environment. So we're not restricted to the risk catalog. So I might decide that I need to create a risk instance right here in the context of the individual process itself. And so I might come down and say, well, I'm unable to connect to the actual system that I need in order to perform this support process. What is the summary? What exactly does that risk instance actually mean? Again, creating this instance the same way we just created one in the risk catalog, but now in the context of my overall process. We can see that it is an instance, and it is also automatically already drawn a relationship to the process. We can go ahead and say that it's an instance of this particular risk and go ahead and create our individual object. And so now this instance lives not necessarily within the catalog itself, but identified here directly with relationship to the process. And it has, if I click on it, says that it's an instance of this particular risk, where I now have a complete listing of both risk instances that might occur within the environment, regardless of where they happen to reside and related to this particular risk. Let's go back. the instance that we just created now, and we'll add a little bit of data behind this particular component. Again, being able to say that it is a medium risk, medium likelihood to occur. And again, it's going to create the value for us so that we've got that 9, and that's what's showing up for us here. Now, that we have our rating identified, what are some of the reports that we might capture from this? One of the things that we might identify, if we simply pop over here to reports, might be a little bit of a compliance, maybe a little bit of a gap report. And so I might run this risk and controls gap report. And this is going to show me, of course, that I have a process, that I have a risk, but I have no mitigating control for this risk. And that might be something that's a problem for me. Maybe the control does exist, but I just haven't created that relationship. So again, we'll go back to our instance, we'll pop over to our relationships, and we'll see that one of the options is to relate a particular control. Now, these controls are also identified here in my platform, so I'll go ahead and select that piece. That'll create the relationship here for me. And the next time I run that report, it's going to show me that that relationship now exists. Going back to our instance now, because we have implemented a mitigating control, maybe the data elements now also change, and so we'll pop down and we'll simply update our values here as well to reflect that now our impact, while it still might be medium, that the likelihood for it to occur is now very low. And as a result of that, our values are now going to change as well. So instead of being a 9, we are now going to be at a level 3. Going back to the risk instance tab now, we can see that the values have been updated here on the main page, reflecting the 3 value. Another report we might consider running would be a risk map. This is a generic report that is available right out of the box. We'll tell it to run the risk map, tell it to run that particular report. As we scroll down, we can see by the color coding that it is in a green with a medium impact and a low likelihood.